Meet and we'll discuss about zakat and wakaf and its impact towards society. I am very grateful to speak here, to share with you and learning from you. I can see some coming from different countries, and I'm very excited about that. So what I'm trying to present today, it's about zakat and wakaf and its impact to society. I think the committee asked me to talk about this, and since I am a historian, I wrote books about Islamic philanthropy history, especially in Indonesia, and also my recent studies mainly looking toward the practice of Islamic philanthropy in Indonesia and sometimes in Southeast Asia. So I will, pardon me, I will focus mainly on my expertise, namely looking at the transformation of the zakat and wakaf from the, let's say, 8th or 7th century practice of Muslim philanthropy into what today we have known in, let's say, digitalized world. And then I will give examples, mostly from Indonesia, about the change from previous practice into now modern practice, let's say. And then I will give offer some thought about what is the impact of zakat and wakaf for society. It's a big question, very big question. I'm sure it is difficult for me to answer within a short period, but I will focus on my book actually on History of Islamic Philanthropy in Indonesia, published by Brill in Leiden and Boston 2013, and also some studies, chapters and books on wakaf in Indonesia, and also this one, as you can see, the special issue in the Muslim world on the wakaf circulation. So this is what I'm going to talk. Okay. Feel free if you want to ask to put the question in the chat, and maybe moderator will help me to will let me know if there is someone ask. Sometimes I couldn't see because I'm using share screen. I'm sure I don't need to tell you what is zakat and what is wakaf. Of course, I am talking to mostly expertise and practitioners of Islamic charity organization, scholars on zakat and wakaf. So, and I'm sure previous lectures before me have already explained a lot comprehensively about that. So, so I directly will focus about the transformation as a background to what I'm talking about the impact. As we know, as I'm a historian, so in the past, especially in Indonesia or anywhere in the world, we organize zakat and wakaf with quite a manual way, let's say, and it's very local. And now, and with the increasing with enlarging Islamic societies from the Hijaz, from the Mecca and Medina, and then growing into civilization and now worldwide. Now the practice of zakat and wakaf become internationally practiced all over the world and has been institutionalized in mostly Islamic countries. I mean by institutionalized is there is a formal organization, institution or bodies on zakat. For example, Indonesia and many other Islamic countries such as Sudan, Malaysia.
I'm sorry, Professor.
Yeah.
I need to interrupt you for a moment.
Sure.
I think the voice is not clear. The professor voice is breaking and not clear. Professor.
Oh, okay. Breaking. I don't know, maybe because the aircon. I don't know. What the best way should I do?
Maybe are you have a headphone or headset? Maybe you can.
Sure.
Okay, or maybe our operator can help the professor.
Yeah. I will try. I have a small headset.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. I'll stop my video. I'm sorry for this technical problem. Yeah. Let me. Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear my voice?
Okay, now it's clear, Professor.
Okay, great. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. I will continue. So yeah, I'm repeating that the practice of zakat and wakaf has been transformed from the Prophet time until we have today. And of course, there is very so many change in the practice along different countries. But of course, the main practice remain basically the same. So, like in Indonesia, a long time ago, we not only Indonesia, I mean many part of the world. When we get zakat, we collect manually and then we document it manually. So does it happen into wakaf? But now we have so many different type of way of digital zakat and wakaf. So this is very, very, I mean, the innovation of technology has been also introduced and been used within the charitable institution within Muslim societies. So we have now zakat and wakaf can be easily accessed via internet, mobile application, crowdfunding, whatever, including cryptocurrencies. Yeah, so it is really amazing. But the core of zakat and wakaf, the principle of zakat and wakaf remains the same. That's the point I want to say, that
The same with the aim that it aims to help the needy, help the people, enhancing community. So this is what we see. So there is a kind of adoption of Islamic charitable practices into online, into digital. And also Islam, zakat and wakaf institutions also has been used online mechanism quite a lot recent days. See, this is the example from Indonesia, and I'm sure in other part of the world, including in Muslim countries, you have almost the same of this practice. Yeah, this is example. You can see about wakaf online, for example. So the previous one is zakat online, and then this one is wakaf online. Not only the ideas has been modeling from what the Prophet done in the Islamic civilization during the Abbasid, the Umayyad, during the Uthmani period, for example, and now introducing the more technology into the same ideas. So we have in Indonesia, for example, wakaf online application, and this is a memorial park using a wakaf mechanism, and also this is the idea of house of wakaf entrepreneurship from my institution. This is the examples, small examples about the wakaf online. I am trying to also mention, beside the positive acceptance, mostly we are happy, right? We are happy about the innovation of technology, and then we can use to pay zakat online, to pay wakaf online, etc. However, there are some challenge also toward digitalizing zakat and wakaf. As a researcher, I need to say this for you, or for us to find out what the challenge and how can we use the let's say online zakat and wakaf in a wise way, and then not to create more problem. So research done by the Zakat Forum of Indonesia, and also my own research find that not all zakat and wakaf institution can follow this trend. Why? There are many factors. Most of the factors related to the human resource, and then also the facilities of the organization, the access toward the internet, of course, toward the technology, many difficulties, many related to human resources and also technology. You can imagine if your organization in the rural area without good access of electricity, for example, it is difficult. How can you expect people from the rural area to pay zakat online, for example? So this is the challenge. That's why some of the zakat organization and wakaf organization remain persistent in doing manual, let's say, to organize the zakat and wakaf in a manual way, in traditional way. It is because of the community is in a rural area, and the community in rural area, they don't really, most of them, they don't really have technology yet. So this is the problem. And if you see the actually opinion of the members organization under the Zakat Forum, for example, actually 88% of organizations find that digitalization support the operational activities of the institution. So it means that digitalization really help organization to efficiently organize zakat and wakaf. Yeah. So it is, they really support, but somehow they don't have all the capacities to do the online zakat. So what happened then? When we talk about the impact, so because my session is about the impact, right? So zakat and wakaf practice in digitalized era, could it cover everyone? No. You can see some pictures here. Even in my area in Bogor, it is still city actually. We cannot distribute zakat through banking transfer. No, it is difficult. Some of the neighborhood here, they don't have bank account. Yeah, we have still a problem. But that's why the distribution of zakat, distribution of benefits should be done manually. You can see here the picture. And also in some areas, like here in minority area like Bali, where Muslim is minority there, mostly people, Muslim use mosque for them to pay zakat, to collect or to give the zakat to the mosque manager. And the mosque manager and ready distribute it. So this is the way in the rural areas and also among poor communities, rural and poor communities, where donors, beneficiaries, mustahik, they couldn't have any facilities to support to use for the digital zakat payment and then recipient. This is the challenge. The challenge also for the wakaf, almost the same. My research in wakaf manager, cash wakaf within the Jakarta area, the problem of modernization and the transformation of wakaf into more productive, let's say, the problem is into the fiqh understanding, and also the mostly communities, people, Muslim in that area do not really want that, for example, the mosque have a business, for example. They said, why should mosque establish a business, wakaf business? No. So this is because the challenge is actually because of the understanding of fiqh. That's why there's some of the challenge toward modernization of zakat and wakaf, and also the use of digital mechanism, online, let's say online mechanism toward the organization of zakat and wakaf. That's a point. So now when we've seen that the impact of digitalization within zakat and wakaf is useful, but how then we think, what does the impact of zakat and wakaf toward society? This is a big question. Shortly, I will say there is a kind of short-term and long-term impact toward society from the zakat and wakaf and other charitable means, other charitable practices. A number of sector, actually, we can say easily, for example, economy, education, health, social, and welfare. So these 5 sectors has benefit a lot from the practice of zakat and wakaf within society. Anywhere in the world, you can say, from a long time ago, from the Prophet time, from the Khalifah time, into 18th century, 15th century, and into today, mostly zakat and wakaf has benefit Muslim communities in the economy, education, health, and social and welfare. One of the big historian write that wakaf, especially during the 15th century and along the history of Islam, wakaf financing Muslim communities. This is very clear. So this is my point here about zakat and wakaf. You see, it is the example from Indonesia, from the history of Indonesia, where the zakat has been started, of course, a long time ago when Islam established in the country, and then during colonial era in Indonesia, there has been a better institutionalization. We have zakat, like Muhammadiyah organization that collect the zakat in a modern way. So starting from the colonial period. At that time, within the 19th century, 20th century, the zakat has been used for education, for financing Islamic schools, madrasah, hospital. The first hospital belongs to Muslim, has been financed by zakat and wakaf and other voluntary donation, sedekah. This is what happened in Indonesia. And the same is wakaf also in Indonesia, and I believe in other countries it is almost the same development. So the impact is sometimes short-term impact. What I said short-term is like if there are people, poor people, they cannot have something to eat, and then when Muslims or charity organizations, zakat organization give money, give food, so this is a short-term impact. Short-term impact that the poor can eat, the poor can get medical treatment, for example, and the poor can go to school. That's the short-term impact. This is what happened in mostly in Indonesia, that zakat and wakaf has been used for so many programs and projects, mainly following economy, education, health, social welfare, and mostly for the short-term impact. But I am saying that actually, even though this is only short-term impact, one thing that make zakat and wakaf is very important and has a long-term impact. Long-term impact because zakat and wakaf financing organization, financing civil society, and this become empowering community. So my books also argue that zakat and wakaf has empowering community, enhancing civil society. This is what happened in the history of Islam in Indonesia. We have strong civil society here, attached to mosque, attached to Islamic school, attached to madrasah, attached to Wakaf endowment. This organization, this institution are self-sufficient. They don't need money from mostly from the government. They can do organized education, many other activities with the money from communities. This is what I say as that Muslim organization can finance themselves, and this become power. If we remember the history of Wakaf in Egypt, for example, in the 15th century, we recall that Wakaf has been financing the society in Egypt, economy of Egypt, Cairo especially, Cairo, strongly. For example, the Nazir of Wakaf, manager of Wakaf become one of the important business person at that time. And Wakaf has been, commercial Wakaf is developed very well. In Indonesia, commercial Wakaf has not developed well because of the agriculture in Indonesia. But in Egypt, in Cairo at the time, with the good agriculture, the Wakaf could finance the economy of Cairo. This is, we cannot, I mean, this phenomenon is everywhere. So Wakaf, even it is in a small area, even it is in a village, including in province and in the country. So Wakaf and Zakat has been empowering community, not only because of it gives short-term impact, but it gives long-term impact. Long-term impact, it creates entrepreneur. Zakat and Wakaf create organization, empower organization. And from within organization, we know people like you, mostly you actually, the practitioners of Zakat and Wakaf. Without practitioners of Zakat and Wakaf, I think we cannot have good innovation in Zakat and Wakaf development. So I'm really grateful that we have Amil Zakat, the Nazir of Wakaf, who mostly very creative to get to do fundraising, to organize, and also to return back to society with projects and programs. So with them, we can, our society can be empowered. So short-term and long-term program. So I will give an example from Indonesia. Let's say in 2018 or 2019 report from the Basnas reported that in Indonesia we had collected about 7.6 trillion rupiah. It's large amount of money. The question is where the money goes and whether the money had an impact. So if we look at the report clearly, we can find out that, well, this money, this fund, 7.6 trillion is mostly zakat, sedekah, and donation, not including wakaf actually. So mostly the funds has been distributed, has been used for the education, like a school, scholarship, informal education, etc. And for health sector, like hospital, for economic empowerment, this is nowadays very important program to support microfinance enterprise, micro and small and middle level enterprise, and support incubator program to support the small business people. And also in social welfare for the da'wah, the region for social services. This how the money goes. One thing I would like to mention is, unfortunately, with this a lot of money, the use for the institutionalization of charity sector for supporting good governance within charity organization is not much, unfortunately. So mostly the program is for the short term, middle term, but for the long term, for the enhancing the philanthropy sector itself, we don't pay much attention. I know some Amil Zakat always think of helping others, but of course we have to help our sector, our third sector, our philanthropy sector, that the sector will always strong. So I think this is an important point that I would like to make, because this is important to make the sector of philanthropy will develop more and more in the future. And also the question also about the impact, right? The impact, mostly I said the impact of the zakat and wakaf still in the short term and middle term activities, not the long term impact. Long term impact is still limited, I'm afraid. But of course, there are some activities that has been endorsed toward the long term impact. For example, by using the Sustainable Development Goals. This is not the Sustainable Development Goals is a way of we see the program. It is not something new. What the charity organization, what zakat organization and wakaf organization do every day is actually supporting Sustainable Development Goals. For example, the Basnas, National Board of Zakat Indonesia, has been in the front line to promote the use of Sustainable Development Goals into the work of Zakat and Wakaf organization. Why? Because with this framework will help Zakat and Wakaf organization to make their program more sustainable. That's the point. That's why they create the Fikih Zakat on SDGs. This is very good innovation developed by National Board of Zakat Indonesia. And this my small research on the SDGs in Indonesia, you can see, for example, mostly charity organization, Islamic charity organization, 67% mostly they program supporting social pillar for poverty, for example, food, something like that. But economic pillar only 15%, environmental pillar 16%, and you can see law and advocacy 0.6%. So what does it mean? It means that our effort for the environment and economy, which is very important for long-term effect, has not been seriously run. I really hope that charity organization, zakat and wakaf organization managers, they really would wants to use the SDGs framework to help us, to help them to improve the program for the more sustainable impact. So not only short term, but long term and more sustainable impact. Shabira, please let me know if there are some question. I couldn't see the chat. Okay, this again, I want to stressing about the impact of zakat and wakaf practice. When we see the history of Islam in the world, we can see Islamic civilization. Mainly, we always happy, we always proud to talk about Islamic civilization, but we forget that Islamic civilization, mostly, especially the buildings, are wakaf buildings. So within Islamic civilization, we have Islamic civilization get a contribution from the wakaf and also zakat. So this is something that we sometimes we forget. And of course, the many history of Islam, the study of zakat and wakaf didn't really well developed. Well, I know some of the historians writing very good. For example, the about food, about kitchen in Ottoman Turkey, for example, and many others had worked well within the Islamic societies. So this is when we talk about Islamic civilization, we sometimes we forget that zakat and wakaf and sedekah and other charitable sources has become important factor for this development. This picture is Baitul Hikmah, and also so it means, of course, Baitul Hikmah has been supported by Sultan Ma'mun, but also by other charities. Also, the medieval Islamic hospital, some of the hospital has been supported by charities. But when we see the contemporary development of zakat and wakaf, we can see, as I mentioned previously, how zakat and wakaf finance education, finance economy, finance health institution, for example. This is happening in Indonesia. And what I want to stress again, as I mentioned previously, the effort toward enhancing, toward empowering philanthropy sector is not being done, has not been done seriously. And for example, in here we have a Journal of Muslim Philanthropy and Civil Society established by Indiana University. This is a very good effort by Indiana University. I'm sure in Indonesia, Baznas has a journal on zakat, yeah, and many other countries. This is examples that the funds, philanthropy funds, zakat funds or donation or sedekah fund could be used to enhance the philanthropy sector. We can imagine the study of philanthropy in later on can produce more scholars and produce innovation. So but how many percentage of Islamic charity organization contribute the zakat into the studies of philanthropy? How many wanted to give for the zakat research, for example? Most of the big research, worldwide research on zakat and wakaf has not been supported by Muslim institution, unfortunately. So this is what I'm saying. Less attention toward the sector of philanthropy. We have to support our own sector. Yeah, that is the example. This is also the example from my own foundation, Professor Azumardi Azra Scholarship, because Professor Azumardi Azra has famous scholar in the West and in the East, board in a number of Islamic universities, not only in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Middle East, but also had a kind of award from the West. Award means like acknowledgement from the West. So that's why we create Professor Azumardi Azra Scholarship, that we put attention into the study of Islamic philanthropy with the model of Professor Azumardi Azra, a very well-known historian. So within the impact of zakat and wakaf practices, if I can say again, it's financing society through a number of programs. I'm sure I should not mention again. And it's empowering civil society through the charity organization, through zakat organization, like in Egypt, Egypt long time ago, like Al-Azhar University, established within 11th century, and then within until 18th or 19th century had became a very powerful institution politically, socially, because of wakaf. But later on, after the wakaf board, like say, was undermined under the state, the institution becoming less and less power compared to the state. So it's empowering civil society. This is what happened in Indonesia because of we have two biggest Islamic organization, Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama. They are financed by zakat, wakaf, and sedekah. And because of this organization in Indonesia, we have strong civil society. And the third point is zakat and wakaf, enhancing civilization. This is my last slide. This is a kind of insight, and to repeat again about that the practice of zakat and wakaf has contributed to various sectors, not only in contemporary period, but from long time ago, from the old history to the sectors of education, health, economy, social and welfare, and they are financing and empowering society. And the question of digitalization, for example, in the sector of zakat and wakaf, it could contribute better collection and management, that's true, that can enhance the impact for society. So the use of digitalization of zakat and wakaf, I think could endorse the more efficient way of donors and the organization to collect zakat. However, this could not be done by all of the institutions and cannot be enforced, I'm afraid, because of the uniqueness of culture in for example, in certain provinces, in rural areas, for example. And the last is the long-term impact. Long-term impact should be encouraged, such as through social, through the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So, charity organizations, zakat organization, wakaf organization should think more that the zakat funds can be utilized to give more impact, including to empowering strong institutionalization of philanthropy. Our sector, the sector of philanthropy, should be empowered. We should empower our sector. We should provide more study. We have to learn a lot. So our staff, for example, our philanthropists, the staff in philanthropy organization can learn a lot. So the sector of philanthropy become more and more powerful, and Islamic philanthropy could develop more well and enhancing civil society. Yes, I think I will stop here. Shabira, I really would like to listen and to learn from other participants or receive questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your lecture, Professor Amelia Fauzia. Now, please, dear participants, you may ask questions into via chat room, or you can raise your hands. Okay. Is there anyone who wants to ask? Okay. Okay. For the first session of Q&A, I will choose the participants who ask in the chat room box. Okay, for the first question, it's from Mr. Ahlan Shah Putra Gultom. Thank you for your presentation, Professor. We know that some of the collected wakaf or zakat funds are managed by national government to build national assets, such as toll road and so on. It's good, but we know that some countries have a big problem of corruption related. Do zakat agencies such as Baznas have the right to get the transparency regarding zakat management at the national level? Okay. So that's for the first question, Professor. You may answer it.
Okay. I think I hear echo. I don't know. Okay. Thanks so much for the question, Brother Ahlan Shah. Well, yes. Actually, my explanation is like this. Zakat and wakaf have the same aim to make a community better, and also the government will do the same. But sometimes the use of money, the zakat money can be used for the development. I think, of course, zakat, Baznas, for example, Baznas could get the right, to get the transparency regarding zakat management. I think this is a lesson learned from the world of charity or philanthropy, that the management of zakat, including a national level, mostly they have very good in transparency and accountability. So indeed, I believe Baznas has the right to ask the government, for example, if they whether they use money in such a way that I mean that people do not have people can get an access to the report to what they do to avoid accusation of or to avoid the chance for the corruption. So more we use transparency and accountability. I believe the level of corruption can be decreased. And one point is actually what I learned from business. They use a lot of digital technology, including for the financial reporting, and it really helped to avoid a chance for the abuse of money. And I know the government should do better actually for this, but of course they still have a problem because of government bureaucracy is very big. That's why sometimes it is difficult, and sometimes some of the bureaucrats they do also abuse of money. That's why it is difficult. But I believe any use of money, zakat money, wakaf money, or also public money, the government organize public money, so they have to be transparent, I believe.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Professor. Okay, now there's already the second questions from Mr. Suhaimi Muhammad Sarif. I read it. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. My question is, can we have one body to manage zakat for all Muslims, not by country, but by Muslims?
Can we have one body to manage zakat for all Muslim, not by country, but by Muslim? Well, this is zakat organization. So sometimes, principally, we can. For example, I want to give my zakat to organization somewhere in Malaysia or somewhere in Dubai, it is possible, or it is possible because this is a kind of zakat organization is like an NGO. An NGO could receive zakat from everywhere in the world. I think nowadays we can easily donate it to, for example, organization like Oxfam, Islamic charities, using credit card, right? Islamic charities, Muslim aid, it's easily. This is organization. Of course, I'm saying organization. If it is individual, if you ask individual, well, it is quite difficult because there are many challenges. Even in Indonesia, the zakat law and also wakaf law has been transformed to endorse that zakat and wakaf should be organized, should be managed by organization, not individual amil or individual nazir. So it is possible, but of course, the challenge is actually the challenge managing a zakat there, that we want to have a zakat worldwide, a zakat organization that could receive and give, distribute money all around the world. I think the challenge is only from the financial transaction. So I believe if you all here wanted to establish one organization, it is possible. In Muslim aid, for example, Islamic charities, and in US there is also one organization, a big one, and has managed zakat from all over the world. As long as you have credit card, for example, it is easy to pay zakat to help the zakat organization, or to pay zakat online anywhere in the world. I think from those who are economists here, maybe you can try or to find out how, but this is my own explanation as a social scientist. Sabira.
Okay, thank you, Professor. As we see now in the screen, we have a lot of participants who already raised their hands. Okay, from Mr. Ashraf Sulaimi bin. Okay, you may unmute yourself and ask the question to Professor Amelia Fauzia directly. Okay, Mr. Ashraf.
Sorry, yeah, Assalamualaikum. I couldn't unmute myself just like that. It's Ashraf here from Malaysia. So thank you very much, Prof, on your presentation. So actually, I have it's more to your comment or your feedback to my inquiries. So if you look at the history of Ottoman Empire, that Wakaf system is heavily regulated by the Ottoman Empire, just like what we're trying to do right now. So as you can see from the history itself, some of the occasion that Wakaf has been heavily used by the government as a fiscal spending, especially for the cash Wakaf. So which end up in the cash Wakaf have been borrowed and not been paid by the government itself. So there's a big clash between the Waqf authority and the government itself. So during this day, we are proposing everything that I can say that want to regulate on the Waqf. How do we ensure that the such things, the events such as this will not be happen in the future? So thank you, Prof.
Thanks so much, Ashraf, for the question. I think it is very important question. It's happened in many countries, not only contemporary, not only today, but also from a long time ago. I mentioned already the case of Al-Azhar University in Egypt. This is what happened. But for the case of well, I'm sorry, I'm not really well informed or have much information and knowledge about the case of Malaysia. But I think from the theory of civil society and how charity or wakaf can be used for enhancing civil society, this is like this. So wakaf, when it is organized or managed independently, it will become, it will have a power. So, and then I believe we need to make the organization of wakaf become powerful and independent So it can have a power, for example, to ask the government, to ask the state related to the management, the use of money, for example, use money of wakaf into certain sector. If this is from the theory, so if the wakaf organization has been established by the state, well, it is quite difficult to get this kind of power. But of course, there is still a chance because of wakaf and zakat has a kind of a board, right? A kind of, especially zakat has a board, Sharia board, for example, and this board can balance the political power to make decision of the zakat organization, wakaf organization become more independent, more powerful. This is quite, I mean, what I'm saying is quite general. That's why in many parts of the world, if there is a kind of differences between organization which has been established by the state purely and with the organization which has been established by bottom-up civil society. I'm not saying by the government is bad. No, I'm not saying like that. But there is the intention toward the civil society has been very strong within the organization which is established by non-state actors. That's why we need to educate. We need to educate the government. This is one way to do. And what happened in Indonesia, this is the case. We need to educate with, for example, with the research, giving them this is the best way to do. In other countries, if we do like this, for example, transparency, and the result will be better, for example. That's what I mean by educate. Educate doesn't mean like you need to tell the government in such a direct or strong way. No, educate means we can do some strategies. I believe government actually wanted to have the best way for the best way of using the money for the ummah, for betterness of society. Of course, this is the idea or the aim of the state. But sometimes the way they do is different. State has number of regulation, a number of thought that make them do a different way. But civil society organization, because they don't have a big structure, no bureaucratization, they can do with a fast way, for example, and quick way. And sometimes it is better than the ways that do. My suggestion is better to have collaboration, synergy in Indonesia we call, collaboration between government, state organization, and also civil society organization. I mean with non-state zakat organization and involving ulama, for example, and scholars to sit together and hopefully in this way we can have a better solution to the problem related to the management of the zakat wakaf money. I don't know whether it helps. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Professor. Okay, let's move to the second question from Miss Kuni Afifah. Host, please help me to allow the chosen participants open their microphone and ask the question to Professor Amelia Fauzia directly.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sabrina, for the chance given. Professor Amelia, thank you for the chance. Just now I heard that you mentioned that one of the challenges for digitalization is that Indonesia have a lot of rural area which cannot be reached by such technology, right? But with the advanced technologies nowadays, we cannot avoid and we cannot stop just like that. We cannot just leave that rural area cannot be reached with this digitalization, as I know that we will also apply blockchain for wakaf, and it's not closed for zakat also will be implemented this kind of blockchain. So do you think whose responsibility to reach this rural area with this such digitalization? It will be zakat institution itself or government, or any suggestion for this one?
That's excellent question and insight, Kuni. Well, yes, I agree with you that we cannot just sit down and do nothing. I agree that we have to do something. Mostly for the technology or access to technology, access to internet, we hope the government can do. But well, sometimes a big country like Indonesia, sometimes it is quite wishful thinking if we want to do it right now, to have it right now. So I'm thinking that why not? Why not? Charity organization, zakat organization, wakaf organization could establish, let's say, a satellite. Long time ago, we know the history of Islam had established a bridge, big mosque, established toll road long time ago, and ships that bring wheat from Turkey to Mecca. It's from wakaf ship, kapal wakaf. It happened. Why not? Now people in need, especially people in rural area, in a very distant and remote area, they need satellite, for example, access to internet. Why don't, for example, wakaf organization or zakat organization do hand in hand or do a kind of crowdfunding to make the idea come true? Well, there's no need to have a big satellite, but at least we can try to do any effort to do this. I think it will be good innovation. We always think of giving money, giving food, education, health. I believe with the advance of technology, wakaf organization, zakat organization should think of giving something related to technology. Many other organizations, other countries, they always they tried already to go to the Mars, to do some innovation. Why not we try to do in technology? Why not we? Because I think in remote areas, people need to give access. And yeah, one way to do is we have a number of charity organization, zakat organization, wakaf organization, that I believe they can support the establishment of tower, for example, towers in collaboration with technology corporation, or we have to maybe make our own technology corporation. Why not? So we have to think big. Thanks, Kuni, for that beautiful question.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Okay, for the next question is from Mr. Abdul Fattah Akani. Please, sir, you may unmute yourself. Or please help Mr. Abdul Fattah to open his mic. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yes, firstly, I want to appreciate the professor for that beautiful presentation. Secondly, as regards Waqf, we've known that zakat can never be collected from a non-Muslim. Can we collect Waqf from non-Muslim who is interested in what we're doing as NGO? And if we can take that, can we also allow non-Muslims to also benefit from our Waqf? That's my question.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Fattah. Sometimes I couldn't hear you clearly, but yeah, I'll try to answer. I think from the history of Islam, wakaf is not only given from Muslims. So wakaf managers also receive wakaf from non-Muslim. This is from my understanding of the Islamic history. And also wakaf also can be used for various projects that later on could benefit society, community. Community is, I mean, including Muslim community in the Medina, for example. It consisted of Muslim, Christians, Jews, you know, so it's community. So wakaf, I can say, is more sustainable, give a more impact, benefit for community, and it has a kind of character that benefit to anyone without discrimination. That's a wakaf. In Indonesia, certainly now, we don't have a lot of productive wakaf, let's say commercial wakaf. But if a long time in the history, I believe the value of tolerance, the value of what I can say, humanist or humanitarian value within zakat and wakaf is strong. I read a history of Umar, I think Umar bin Khattab, when he entered an area of previously new conquered area along the history of Islam, and he said some Christians, poor Christian, were sick, I think because of the like a pandemic like now, epidemic like now. And he said directly that, okay, please, you take care of these poor Christians. Well, in Indonesia we call it lepra. This pandemic disease, take the money from the Baitul Mal. This is clear. I read the story from Umar bin Khattab, and I believe in along the history of Ottoman, Abbasiyah, Umayyad, a number of inclusive way of zakat giving is strong. Of course, zakat and wakaf has been developed from Islamic value, from Islamic teaching, of course. But within the Islamic teaching, it is possible to do inclusive giving. This is what happened with Islamic charities, for example, from UK, Muslim Aid, also from UK, and a number of organizations, Muslim organizations, but they give zakat and wakaf, including zakat, inclusively to those who need it without discrimination. Of course, the priorities is mostly for those the poor, for example, and for example, in certain for example, disaster, victim of disaster is for the victim of disaster without discrimination. And it happens. I believe this is the practice of rahmatan lil alamin. This is the practice that the Prophet really want us to do. But of course, we have a regulation. Each country has a regulation on zakat and wakaf. And of course, we need to cooperate or to deal with this cooperation. Not cooperation, regulation, but also following the fiqh. Our fiqh, we have very rich fiqh. If you read fiqh al-mazahibul arba'ah, for example, it's very rich discussion on zakat, who are the managers, etc. and so forth. I believe we can take a kind of a model from fiqh, which also follow the more inclusive rahmatan lil alamin use of zakat and wakaf. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Professor Amelia Fauzia. Okay, I believe there is still 2 questions in the chat room box. Is it all right? Okay. Okay, from the first one is from Mr. Abdul Rahim Abdul Wahid. Thanks, Ma. May Allah reward you abundantly. Ma, do we have a case judicially decided by the competent court of law on the issue of corruption in zakat management?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, I don't know in other countries, but in the history, yes. In Indonesia, yes, we do have cases on, let's say, the issue of mismanagement, let's say, abuse of money of zakat. We do have such cases. And also, Indonesia, we have a National Board of Zakat, Basnas. Basnas has its certain mechanism to, let's say, to impose to make some punishment, let's say, punishment to certain organization, for example, which has a potential of mismanagement or abuse of zakat. Yes, we do have.
Okay. So the last question is from Ms. Rinas Muhammad. She asks, it was a precious session. Thank you for your wonderful session. I would like to know, may I know the proceedings of zakat and wakaf before a Western colonizations of Indonesia? I mean, during the Ottoman and Abbasid eras.
Well, very good question. you need to be historian. And I mean, to learn history, I'm very happy that many people want to learn history. But yes, unfortunately, documents on zakat and wakaf during Western colonization in Indonesia, we don't have a lot, but we do have something related to that during the 19th century and 18th century. Some of the document from the document and stories from the manuscripts, like from Bustano, some of the work from the scholars, Bustano Salatin, for example, and many other manuscripts. Unfortunately, in Indonesia, we don't have good literacy, we don't have good documentation, I'm afraid. That whether during Abbasid era, for example, I don't know, maybe it's too long, about 8th century, 9th century. During Ottoman era, I'm sure we could have some documents, some manuscript mention about Ottoman in Indonesia, but I'm not sure whether they mention about the zakat and wakaf. Unfortunately, mostly wakaf. We could find some documents saying about the establishment of mosques and wakaf in Indonesia during 15th and 16th century. So if you want to do research on history of zakat and wakaf, wow, that will be great, Marina.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. There is still one question left in the chat room box. It's from Mr. Gandhi Setiawan. Recently in Indonesia, our government have initiative to develop cash wakaf to be invest in capital market. What is your opinion if the investment of cash wakaf failed and the wakaf fund cannot return back similar to the previous amount?
This is very important question. I think a few months ago, I was asked to speak in a conference on wakaf, cash wakaf, and then some hesitant questions come to the questions that how about if there is mismanagement? How about if we put the cash wakaf money to invest to certain business, but then we try our best, but the business fail? Well, of course, there is a certain arrangement, and we try our best that the business is not fail, right? The zakat manager, the wakaf manager should be, of course, the person has a qualification on doing investment, on doing business. That's the one important point. I've stayed in Singapore for 3 years, and I've been looking at the wakaf management of in Singapore. It is excellent. It employ managers and investment, expert. And if you want to do investment for the cash or wakaf, so we have to hire an expert for that. If we don't hire a person who is good in that area, well, if it is failed, it's part of our fault. But okay, so this is one way. So we have to have a person who is knowledgeable and expert in that such a thing to manage the wakaf, cash wakaf. And the second thing, I will do something like this. In Indonesia, there are about 400,000 wakaf land left, left without any, didn't manage and leave it like that way. And it is wasting money. If the land, the estate used properly, for business, it can earn something. But this about 400,000 wakaf land is left without any effort to use it. It is wasting money. So what is, if you try to manage the wakaf, to the land, wakaf or cash wakaf, to make it investment, to make a business, to have a profit, then the profit will come back for the wakaf and for the community. It is good compared to if you don't do anything. If you don't do anything, it is actually we lost. But if you do something for the investment cash wakaf, you try your best. But if, for example, you lost there because of, for example, COVID-19 pandemic, crisis, you lost. But you still have reward, pahala, reward, because you do something. Because if we don't do anything, it is also lost. We lost because this wakaf land has not been managed productively. This is a loss. So if I compare with the first one, loss with the second one, I will prefer the second one. We have to try our best to make to create cash wakaf, but we have to, of course, do good procedures, regulation, follow regulation, find someone expert, then hopefully it will develop well. But if lost, then it is not really your fault. So if it is lost and the wakaf fund cannot return back similar to the previous one, I think it is okay, as long as you have try your best for making sure the regulation or the procedure is correct. That's ijtihad, right? Ijtihad, and you still get the reward. Dapat pahala. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you, Professor Amelia Fauzia. I believe that was the last question from the participants.